and welcome. First, I'd like to thank the staff for having me here today, but just as important, all of you who were brave enough to show up to talk about supernatural legends of the Northwoods from wherever you're watching this program. So with that, let's begin. Welcome, my name is Chad Lewis and I'll be your presenter for this program. And although my background is actually in the field of psychology, for the last 25 plus years I've been traveling the world in search of the strange and unusual. Everything from hunting for vampires in Transylvania, looking for the Loch Ness Monster, crop circles, UFOs, reports of abductions, really weird people, odd places, you name it. If it's just a little strange and unusual, I've traveled across the globe in search of these oddities. But what I discovered on my travels is that sometimes the weirdest things happen right in your own backyard. So that's what we're going to explore this program. I'm going to give you the background, the folklore, the eyewitness accounts. I'll talk a bit about my investigations of these places. Heck, I'll even provide you with the directions to these places. But I'm going to leave it up to each and every one of you to travel to these places on your own and determine for yourself whether or not you believe these legends are true. So with that, let's explore some of the weirdest legends of the Northwoods. First stop, ghosts and haunted areas. For a lot of people, when they hear of a haunted place, they tend to think of a cemetery. And the reason being is quite simple. Back when cemeteries were chosen, they were thought to serve as a portal between our world and the spirit world. So when their loved ones passed on, it would just be easier for them to travel from our world to whatever world you believe they go to. But regardless of whether or not you believe this theory, many believe that in some cemeteries it's working in reverse, that the living are not moving into the dead, but the dead are coming in to our world. First stop, Duluth, Oniotai Cemetery. It's here all sorts of weird activity takes place. But the most common report I receive out of this cemetery is the fact that people will be in the cemetery when all of a sudden they see what appears to be some sort of large phantom black dog running through the cemetery. Sometimes this dog is accompanied by a man walking it. But the man vanishes into thin air. And the dog, which appears nearly transparent, is often seen running through the cemetery and then disappearing right before it gets to the edge of the ravine on the outskirts of the cemetery. Some have gone as far to claim that this might be a hellhound roaming the cemetery. Now, if you're not familiar with the folklore of a hellhound, they've been reported throughout history in nearly every culture on the planet. They're often seen as large black dogs with glowing red, green, or yellow eyes. Many cultures believe that they do the devil's bidding, that they guard portals to hell, that they are a harbinger of death, a death omen, that if you see the hellhound, much like seeing or hearing the Irish banshee, it means you or someone you know is going to die very shortly. And at Oniotai Cemetery, many believe that's exactly what that phantom black dog is. Now, it should be noted as well that a lot of younger people go to this cemetery to party and have a good time away from the prying eyes of the authorities. Some which saw the dog hid behind a gravestone thinking it was the police coming to break up their party, only to be surprised when the dog vanished right before their eyes. But cemeteries aren't the only haunted places. As you'll see, nearly every type of place can and usually does have a haunted story. If you head up north a little bit to Two Waters, you'll come to Blackwoods Bar and Grill. Not the one in Duluth, the one in Two Harbors. For many years, people have talked about the strange occurrences going on inside this family restaurant. Mainly that of a woman in white walking through the building. Many see her and claim that she'll swipe her hand across the table as though trying to see the cleanliness of the actual restaurant. Staff members told me that while working, setting up for the day, they'll hear somebody walking around upstairs, like heavy furniture moving. Knowing that nobody should be up there, they often go to check it out to find it's completely empty. Other bartenders told me that when they came into work, they would notice one or two bottles on the liquor shelf rattling, rocking back and forth, as though rocked by some unseen hand. Yet when they went to get a closer look, the bottles stopped moving, seemingly on their own. It's also here some of the workers, while cleaning up the bathroom, have had weird experiences. One lady was cleaning the bathroom, saw in the mirror someone behind her. Thinking it was odd that anybody would be in the restroom at that time, she spun around and found nobody there. One woman, who was a former bookkeeper of the restaurant, claims that the spirit of this woman followed her home one evening. One night as she got home, she hopped in the shower. Meanwhile, her husband felt her crawl into bed next to him. Started talking, asking about her day, wondering how it went. When his wife came out of the shower, he was amazed to find that no one was in the bed next to him. He was convinced that somebody was there, and the bookkeeper was convinced she had brought home the spirit from the restaurant. So the next time you head to Blackwoods, you might be leaving with more than your leftovers. Believe it or not, this is the most commonly asked question I receive. Where can I go to spend the night in a haunted place? Well, if you have that macabre sense of adventure, you're in luck. Because in the Northwoods, you have all kinds of haunted lodging options. Hotels, motels, B&Bs, inns, cabins, resorts, camping, you name it, it has a haunted story to it. One of my favorite places is right down the road from Blackwoods, the Two Harbors old B&B lighthouse. This gives you that unique opportunity to spend the night in an old lighthouse. Those who do report all kinds of odd activities, mysterious knocking and rapping on the doors and windows, objects being misplaced in their room. But the most common report happens in the dead of night, when everyone is supposed to be sleeping. That's when guests will be awoken by a sound of clashing down in the communal kitchen, like pots and pans crashing and breaking, loud enough to wake up the entire B&B. Yet when people go down to investigate, they find the kitchen dark, empty, none of the silverware or pots and pans have been disturbed. After a recent program I did in Two Harbors, a woman came up to me and told me that her husband used to work at the B&B, checking out guests, cleaning up the place once they left. And oftentimes he'd come home after a shift, complaining that while he was at the B&B cleaning up, getting it ready, he could hear faint whistling coming from inside the building, yet he could never find the origin for it. A little closer to where a lot of you are watching this from, you have the Best Western Hotel Schwamagon. This hotel, again, is clouded in mystery as to why so many people have had supernatural events take place here. One of the weirdest stories tells of people going into the main lodging area, the sitting area, when all of a sudden they see what appears to be a man sitting in the chair looking like he's from the 1920s. But when they look again, he simply vanishes into thin air and is no longer in the room. It's also inside of the guest rooms that people have experiences as well. Guests that go out for the day to enjoy the lake often come back to find personal items have been moved, switched around, as though touched by some unseen hand, although nothing of value is ever found missing. But as I'm running low on time, I want to end with the type of case that I receive most commonly, and that is a haunted house. Out of all the reports I receive, more people contact me about their home being haunted. Some believe that it's a loved one haunting their place, where they smell grandma's perfume on the anniversary of her death, or their uncle smoking a cigar. Others have no idea who or what may be haunting it. Some of them are fine with it. That doesn't bother them. Others would do whatever they could to get out of the house. But I bring this up to you because later this evening, when all of you go home and tuck your head into your pillow and get ready for sleep, and you hear the wind rustling outside your window, I want you to ask yourself, is it possible, just maybe, that wasn't the wind howling outside your window? And with that, if you want more information, my website, chadlewisresearch.com, has more than you could ever possibly want or need. But I hope your adventure doesn't end here with this program. Grab one of my books, go on your own adventure of the Northwoods. And when you do, I think you'll discover that we live in one heck of a weird place. You'll see weird things on your travels, you'll meet odd people, and along the way, you might just discover that the scariest thing out there is often yourself. So with that, thank you for watching, and keep an eye out